Good
Let's
morning,
begin.
Rabbi.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. Good morning. So we are on Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph. We're on page 12a in Tractate Taanis. And we've been learning about this concept of a fast for a specific amount of time called a Taanis Shois. That's what we've been talking about. And we had a sort of like a revelation that totally knocks us off track. Normally, if you think of a Taanis Shois, it sounds like it's a fast that you're not going to fast a full day. You could fast for a few hours. It sounds like a reasonable type of thing. You know, you have a Taanis Shois. But our Gemara said two statements, both from Rav Chizda. One was on the top of the page, Yud Beis Amud Aleph, first line, where Rav Chizda says this, that you could fast for sha'os, it means you haven't tasted anything till the evening. Which the understanding of that first statement sounds like it's saying that you didn't eat anything in the morning. In other words, you're going to fast during the day. And you haven't eaten anything yet, and then you could fast for a few hours. Abaye said, that sounds a little strange. If you haven't eaten anything, and now you're going to fast, that sounds like a regular fast day. So what do you mean by calling it a fast for hours? That's a regular fast day. And the Gemara answered, no, it's talking about a case where he chose now to fast out of an official acceptance of fasting, even though before he fasted, but it wasn't a official acceptance of fasting. He happened not to eat. He was busy, whatever it was. He didn't end up eating yet. And because of that, he ended up fasting a whole day, but we call it a fast for sha'os, for hours. So what comes out from this is that, can you really fast for a few hours in the day? No. You have to fast all day if you want it to be called a fast. But if you didn't accept it on yourself, there is a way of finishing up the fast, at least by accepting it on yourself now. And that would be considered a fast for sha'os, even though you fasted all day, but you're not getting full credit for all day, because the first few hours you didn't really have in mind to fast. You were just busy or whatever. You didn't end up eating. And the next half of the day is called the Taanis Shois, and you're fasting for hours. That would be like a simple way of understanding the Gemara. If we look in the top Rashi, Rashi says, Kaloimar, this means to say, Loi amru b'mesana sha'achol b'bayoim. We're not talking about a person who fasts, that a person is fasting, but he ate that day. That he started fasting until midday and then he ate afterwards. That would not be called inoi fasting. If he ate in the morning, it wouldn't be a fast at all. Ella, rather, he's got to do the full day. Even though he didn't accept it from the day before, that would be what we're talking about. In the course of Parach, the Gemara asks if he's if he fasted until midday with a vow, and then afterwards he just fasts the rest of the day. This is a high tiny Somalia, so that would be considered a full fast. He should even do the Anenu prayer. He wouldn't have to hear some halacha from you, Reb Chizda, because that would be this would be a regular fast. The person who's asking the question thinks that Misana L'shoy sounds like it's only a certain amount of hours. That if you could fast until midday, that would be called fasting. And the Gemara answered that no, that this we're talking about a person who didn't have in mind to fast, and he didn't end up eating until midday. And then once midday comes, he chose that since I fasted the first half, let me fast the rest of the day, and that would be considered a that would be
Oh,
considered uh, a fast because he fasted all day. Then we had another statement of Rav Chisda, which is a little surprising. This other statement of Rav Chisda sounds like it's saying the same thing. The other statement of Rav Chisda says, if you don't fast and finish until Shkia, which we're translating to be the end of Shkia, it's not called a fast. Um, so what it sounds like he's emphasizing here is that it has to be, you have to finish it. You can't just say, well, majority of the day, or, you got to finish it properly. It's got to finish until the setting of the sun, and the way we translate it means the end of the setting of the sun. So that's the two statements of Rav Chisda, and that basically makes us understand Taanis Shois to be a fast where you're fasting all day, but you only accepted it for a certain amount of time, and that would be the simple understanding of the Gemara. And again, what we're seeing here is that you do need to accept it in advance. So what you'll accept in advance is you're going to be fasting now the rest of the day. So you now accept the fast for the rest of the day. That would be seemingly Rashi's understanding and some of the other Rishonim. Other commentaries want to say that you really need to accept the fast the day before, even if it's a Taanis Shois, even though you're only getting credit for fasting some hours in the day. You fasted all day, but you're getting credit for some of the hours in the day, and you want to accept the fast in advance. That fast, that acceptance of the fast in advance really has to be done the day before. And the way they learn this Gemara is they have to explain the scenario where it's imlach imluche, that you had accepted in advance to fast part of the day, and you chose this day to fast the rest of the day. So but you already accepted it in advance on the day before. That would be the case where it's Masan and Lashois, but you still have to fast all day. Again, that stays the same. Everyone agrees you have to fast all day, and then you can get credit for part of the day because you accepted it on yourself in advance. And according to this other review, it means you accepted it in advance the day before, and that would be considered the acceptance. That would be considered the way to accept it. I will just mention to you that the Rambam seems to hold that the main point of Rav Chisda is really to finish the fast, the day fasting, even though you ate in the beginning of the day. That seems to be acceptable, and the way he would translate the Gemara is Shalei Tam Klum Ad Ha'erev, is the emphasis is until the night you fasted. You did end the fast properly, but the fact that you ate in the morning doesn't ruin it. And so that would switch the way we're understanding Taanis Shois to mean that it's possible that he even did he did eat during the day, so he sort of broke his fast during the day in the morning, but he's now going to at least conclude the fast with a completion of fasting. Now, the reason the Rambam seems to hold that way is because the Yerushalmi seems to say that concept, that it's that if you finish the day in a fast, that's called the Taanis Shois. So, so the Rambam seems seemingly trying to believe that the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, sort of fits, and it's not maybe normally we would paskin like the Babylonian Talmud versus the Yerushalmi Talmud, but um, uh, the way the Rambam learns it is that it's not a contradiction, obviously, and therefore he holds that it's possible to learn it this way. Now, the Gemara asks some questions on this concept, because we do find that there are some cases where you fast, but you don't finish the fast. And so one of the cases was the case of Anshe Mishmar, the people serving in the Beis Hamikdash. They wouldn't finish the fast. The Gemara said that they're not really fasting; they are participating with the community. So their fast is not really an official fast, but they're participating with the community, and that's really what this, what their involvement is. Now we had this interesting discussion yesterday about the other statement of Rabbi Eliezer ben Sadok, um, which he said that he celebrates the 10th day of Av. That's his day of celebration. His family would celebrate that day. And it turned out one year it fell on Tisha B'Av fell on that day because it was a Tisha B'Av Nidche. It was a pushed off Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av fell on Shabbos. And they pushed off Tisha B'Av to Sunday. Sunday was the 10th of so he had to deal with the fact that on the one hand, he's supposed to be fasting Tisha B'Av. On the other hand, it's a holiday for him. So what did they do? And it sounds like he was maybe young at the time. I'm from the grandchildren. One day it fell. We fasted on that day. It's like it was part of his family. The family they fasted, and we didn't finish it. And I was talking plural, like his whole family was. They did fast, but they didn't finish it. Sounds like you could have a fast that's not completed, and that's considered a valid fast. And so not every fast has to be completed, it sounds like. And contrary to what Rav Chisda seems to be saying, that you always have to finish the fast at the end of the day and continue fasting till the end of the day, these statements, this statement specifically sounds like it is a contradiction to Rav Chisda. The Gemara answered that the same answer that it gave before is they also did not really fast on that Yom Kippur, which was the 10th of Av that year. They didn't fast then. It was only participating in the fast with the community, so they didn't eat. But it wasn't really called a fast day. The reason it wasn't called a fast day was because they broke it before the end of the day. They were loy hishlal lamnuhu. We didn't finish it. We didn't conclude it. In fasting, it was our Yom Tov. I mentioned to you that there's a famous question: did they fast in the time of the second Beis Hamikdash on Tisha B'Av? And there's an additional question: did they celebrate the holidays of Megillas Taanis, the holidays that it mentions in Megillas Taanis? There's a booklet that has all the holidays, special days of celebration. Would they fast would they celebrate those days after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed? So Teves over here brings that when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, Megillas Taanis was no longer celebrated. The holidays that it talks about in Megillas Taanis, they no longer celebrated. Now, the story of Rabbi Elazar ben Tzadok was after the Churban, and because if it was before the Churban, they would not have been fasting on Tisha B'Av. So it must have been after the Churban. And he says this doesn't sound right, because if it's after the Churban, Tosfos is bothered with why is there a celebration on the 10th of Av? This is one of those days that once the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash happened, you no longer celebrate those holidays. So what we see from here, Tosfos is himself a little skeptical when the story happened, and he has to prove it, meaning that we know when Rabbi Eliezer and when Reb Tzadok lived. They lived at the time of the Churban. Reb Tzadok, we know the story of that Reb Tzadok was the man who fasted for many years, and he was very sick, and Rabbi Yochanan asked Vespasian about getting a doctor. That was one of his requests. We should get a doctor for Reb Tzadok because he couldn't hold any food down. He had fasted for so many years, and it was like impossible for him to eat. So they wanted a doctor. So they wanted to get a doctor for him. That was one of the three requests that Rabbi Yochanan had asked of Vespasian. Now, so Reb Tzadok lived right by the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. So he was obviously alive before the destruction, and he was alive after the destruction. And so this story was with his son, which very possibly was after the destruction. Possibly it could have been before the destruction. His son was talking about something that happened. Maybe could have been when he was young. Could have, he's talking about this situation when it fell on Shabbos Tisha B'av, and they pushed it off to after Shabbos, and they fasted, and they didn't finish the fast. So Tosfos says that we must say the story sounds like it happened after the Korban because they were fasting on Tisha B'av, but they were also celebrating Megillas Taanis, which doesn't seem to fit because the accepted view is that you don't celebrate holidays after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. These small holidays they didn't celebrate. So Tosfos concludes that he probably held, according to the opinion, that you do still celebrate even after the destruction. You still celebrate those holidays. So, so this is the opinion of Tosfos. I mentioned to you that there are other views. There's like the Rambam holds that they did fast during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash. They would fast on Tisha B'av. Now, if they would fast on Tisha B'av during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, you could say that the story happened during the time of the Beis Hamikdash when they still fasted on Tisha B'av, and then it answers Tosfos' question because Tosfos is bothered with why they celebrating a day of one of these celebration days if the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. The answer is no, the Beis Hamikdash wasn't destroyed. They're fasting on Tisha B'av, even though the Beis Hamikdash wasn't destroyed yet, because the first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed on Tisha B'av, and that's why they're fasting for that. And yet they still celebrate these holidays. And here you had a contradiction of which holiday to celebrate, because it's Tisha, it's a 10th of Av. You're supposed to this family is supposed to celebrate that holiday. On the other hand, it's also a Tisha B'av Nidcha. So in the end, they fasted but they didn't finish the fast. They celebrated at the end and they ate. So that's one discussion of this story. And the other discussion that we talked about had to do with the concept of a day of celebration if it falls on a Tisha B'av Nidcha. Yes, Mordechai.
Yeah, doesn't it say that Martha Bas Baitus died from eating one of those sucked out figs?
Yeah. That's right. She stepped on it, I think it says. Does it say she stepped on it or she ate it? I think she stepped on it and she died. She was so delicate and used to the most fanciest things. I think it says she stepped on it. I have to look up that Gemara and Nezakin or Gittin, somewhere 56 maybe. So anyway, yeah. So so this is the story of so what happens if a person's holiday falls out on a Tisha B'av that's pushed off? So the example that we saw in the tour was if you have a bris, do you fast the full day of Tisha B'av when it gets pushed off, if it falls on Shabbos and pushed off to Sunday, and that Sunday happens to be the day of your bris of your son, because a week ago, the Sunday before Tisha B'av, your wife gave birth to a boy. So now it's the 8th day. It's the Sunday after. The next Sunday is the 8th day, and it's a Tisha B'av that's pushed off. So would you fast or would you not fast? So they have a proof from our Gemara that you don't have to finish the fast. You actually they talked about taking a shower on that day and eating on that day, not for the whole community, but for the Baalei Habris, the father of the boy, the Sandik, going to hold the boy, the Mayel. They would all be able and eligible to break the fast. And we mentioned that the Mishnah Brura adds that even a pigeon aben, falls that day, the day, the 31st day is that day. That would be also a reason to not have to finish fasting. And this seems to be a source for that you don't finish the fast. It's your Yom Tov. You can break the fast. Okay, now we're up to Tashema, and Tashema is maybe about 12 lines, 13 lines maybe from the top of the page. Tashema, let me tell you in the art scroll. The art scroll, it is 12A1. 12A1, the last paragraph on the page. Tashema, come and listen. Let me bring a proof about, or a question on Rav Chizda's law that you have to fast the whole day. Otherwise, it's not considered a real fast. So it says, Tashema dam Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, Ehei b'tainis ad she'avi levesi. Rabbi Yochanan used to say that I'm going to be fasting until I reach my house. Now,
how far did he go?
So the understanding is that even if he went home right away and he got home before evening, he would break his fast. And that sounds like, even though he accepted on himself a fast, but he would break it. Rashi brings if he reached his house in 2 or 3 hours, he would eat. And yet he accepted this fast and he would eat. So this sounds to be a contradiction to Rav Chizda. So the Gemara answers that Hasam over there in the case of Rabbi Yochanan, L'shamute nafshe mi bein asiyahu d'avir. He did this in order to exempt himself from the house of the Nasi. What does this mean? So the way Rashi understands it is that the Nasi used to ask him to eat by him, and he would say that he's fasting so that he won't bother him that he would have to eat with him. But it really didn't have the law of a fast, because a real fast only works if you fast all day. So when he makes this vow of fasting, it's null and void. That's the way Rashi learned. The fast is null and void. It doesn't take effect.
It's not till the stars come out.
And because of that, the fast is meaningless, the way Rashi learns. The Rush argues, and the Rush says that the fast, he still has to keep his word. He would still need to keep his word, and it maybe didn't have the value of a fast, but it would have the rule of making a vow. In fact, the Rush wants to understand the Yerushalmi, where the person ate part of the day and he still fasts till the end of the day. The way the Rush learns, the reason why how to reconcile that Yerushalmi with our Gemara is very simple. That in truth, the fast, Reb Chizda says, a fast needs to be a fast all day. But if you ate and you made a vow, you still have to keep the vow. It's not considered a fast, but it's considered a vow. And so the vow you would have to keep. Rashi doesn't agree with that. He says this vow is null and void because it's supposed to be a vow for a mitzvah, and it's not a real mitzvah. So it makes that your vow is not really it becomes voided because it's not like a vow where you vowed upon yourself, I am going to eat this, or I'm going to be prohibited from that. That type of vow you got to keep. This type of vow is a mitzvah vow. But if it's not a mitzvah, Rashi says, then it basically falls apart and it doesn't have any validity. The Rush wants to say no. It still takes on a element of a vow because he still, he still said a vow, and that vow would take effect and would obligate him to to keep his word. So that's that seems to be one of the debates over here among the Rishonim of, is it, do you have to keep your word or not with regard to such a vow? Is it considered null and void?
Levi,
Yes.
I wanted to say, why don't we think that he said, wait until I come home, and then we'll wait until the right time and end it. Maybe he didn't mean that I'm going to stop it early the minute I walk into the house. Wait till I come home and we'll do it together. We'll end it together.
He would make a vow, and you're saying maybe he had in mind that even if he comes home before sunset, before dusk, he's still going to wait at his house until dusk. But the words he said was until I get home. He didn't say until dusk.
He said, just wait till I come home.
Yeah, but that itself is an implication that it's not dependent on the night. It means whenever he gets home. So seemingly,
that's not how I get it. If I told my kids, if I told my kids, wait till I come home, doesn't mean that something's gonna happen right that minute.
So my understanding is
wait till I come home, we'll get together and we do whatever we have to do.
Yeah, my understanding to what you're saying, you have a point that maybe, he was coming home late. So when he says, when I get home, it means after Tzeisak Chav, after the stars come out. That's what you're saying. That maybe it means he's come. So I would understand what you're saying if this was a one-time thing. But the Gemara says that this happened very often, that he would always say this. Yeah. So it's the Gemara's understanding of that is that because he would say this all the time, there were obviously times when he got home early, and he still would say the same word.
When he's home, he can continue. It doesn't mean he has to stop.
Oh, you're asking maybe he didn't break it when he got home. Right. Maybe he still fasted. The verbal part of his fast was until he gets home, but then he still fasted before he broke his fast.
Right.
And it wasn't part of his vow.
Right.
That's what you're asking. Oh, okay. I thought you meant maybe he always arrived home late. And
the
vow included. Oh, okay. So you're asking a different question.
Many times you tell your kids, why don't you wait till I come home?
So what it sounds like from the Gemara's recording of this is that the Gemara knew that he used to eat when he got home, even though it wasn't night. And that's
I don't know.
Right. But I'm just saying the fact that the Gemara is bringing it as like as a story, it sounds from the Gemara like
I think there is more than one idea.
Maybe the commentaries talk about it, but the Gemara understands that that's the story here. Yeah. But listen, maybe the Gemara has another little proof from the wording. Sometimes the commentaries derive something from the way he worded it. That maybe you could see in the wording that it means he ate. I mean, I would say maybe you do see it from the wording. Why did he say until I get home? And why didn't he say until not? Why would he say that? If he really waited to fast, then maybe that's the proof. If he really waited to fast until dusk, so why didn't he say that and get credit for it? He's anyway waiting he's going to wait till dusk, according to you. So let him get credit
if he waits till dusk, no matter if he said it or not.
No, he won't get full credit. He'll only get credit till he gets home, and the rest is going to be his own foolishness of continuing to fast. He's not getting credit for that as fast day. He's getting he's just continuing to fast because of Reb Chizda's statement. But why would he do that if he could get credit for fasting all the way until dusk? Let him get the full credit of fasting till dusk as part of his vow. You know what I mean? You don't get
I
certain
don't see
fasts.
it. I don't see it. He didn't say I'm going to stop as soon as I get home.
I understand what you're saying, but
So he
the fact that
didn't hurt his vow. His
he didn't
vow
hurt his vow.
stands.
Because you want to say he probably fasted until dusk, even after he got home. But I
Yeah,
would
let's
argue
do it together.
say,
That's what he means, you know. He wants
I
to
would
do it with his
argue,
family.
I understand, but I would argue with you and say, if he really was fasting until dusk, he
Yeah.
would say that. He would have used those words. I'm fasting until dusk, and not until I get home. The fact that he said until I get home implies like he would eat once he got home. Otherwise, he would get credit. It should say until dusk, and then he'll get credit until dusk. You know what I mean? You're fasting anyway, so do it right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He should get credit for it.
I don't know. Maybe
that would probably be the proof. Again, I didn't really see if the commentaries. Maybe the commentaries mentioned something about it, but
family never worried about waiting till dusk. So he says, "Wait for me. You know, I'll come home and we'll do it together." Maybe they were used to eating early or something. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just take a fast look here because I don't want to waste everyone's time. But let's see.
That's okay. You can look it up for next time.
Yeah, it doesn't look. It doesn't look like they don't discuss it here. I don't see it being discussed. Okay. Okay, let's continue. So the Gemara continues. It says that Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, "Kol Taanis lo kibul elav mibayin." Everyone has the place. Amar Shmuel. We must be 12B, 12.
Yeah.
A2 probably in the art scroll. Right. 12A2. Amar Shmuel. Yeah.
Amar Shmuel.
Second paragraph. Amar Shmuel. So Shmuel says that any Taanis that you didn't accept me by Yom live me times that you didn't accept before the day before, the previous day is not called a Taanis, not called a fast. The Yosiv. So the Gemara says now if he does fast without accepting it the day before, what would the rule be? Yosiv does this consider like he fulfilled a fast or not? In other words, is it called a fast or not? He didn't accept it the day before. Is that considered if he made a obligation on himself to that he's going to make a certain amount of fasts, this year or something. Now, so he didn't accept it on himself the day before. So what is it? Then he fasted this day, but he didn't accept it the day before. What would the law be? Would it be somehow satisfy any of his obligation? So the Gemara answers, it is comparable to some type of a mapucha, some type of a thing that blows. They would use some machine to blow something to blow on the fire to strengthen the fire, to blow to make the fire
they call
bigger.
It mapuach,
some type of blower. So he said that
you can take a cloth or something and wave it too.
Wave it,
makes a little
anyway. So there's
the fire.
So the Gemara just says that it's comparing it, saying that when you fast, though you're not eating, all you're doing is basically filling yourself up with air. You're similar to a mapuach that's full of air. That's all you are. When you fast, you didn't gain anything. It's worthless. You filled yourself up with air. You didn't eat anything. Now, the Gemara continues. It says, "Amos makabele." So when does he accept the fast on himself? So we've been talking about accepting it at mincha time, but the truth is the Gemara does have a debate here. Rav Amar b'mincha. Rav says at the time of mincha. Shmuel Amar b'tfilas mincha. Shmuel says at the davening of mincha. So there's a debate over here what this means at mincha time. In other words, we were using the term mincha time, but what does mincha mean? And even when you say at mincha time, there's actually two minchas. There's the mincha gedayla and there's the mincha ketana. So the zman mincha, at the time of mincha, could mean, seemingly could mean both. Could mean the earlier mincha or the later mincha. When do you start davening? If you want to daven mincha, when is the earliest time to daven? So the interesting thing is, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, one day a year they used to bring the karban tamid, the afternoon sacrifice, the daily afternoon sacrifice. One day a year, erev Pesach, the day before Pesach, they would bring that sacrifice very early. They would bring it a half hour after midday. Because of that, you are allowed to daven mincha a half hour after noon. Like, for example, today, which is a fast day, there are there is an option. Some people are going to use it today, that they want to daven Ma'ariv early, before before dusk. Why? Because they want to get home and make Kiddush exactly at, let's say, 6:01 or something, when the fast is over. I'm not exactly sure what time the fast is over. Let's see what the Chabad website says. The fast today is over at 6:01. Oh, yours on at 6:13. Well, in Lubavitch we get it a little easier. Our view is the sun doesn't have to go that far down below the horizon. But 6:01 is good enough in Chabad. But there are other opinions, and thank you, Ezra. So 6:13, it seems like, is another view. So some people are going to want to daven Ma'ariv before 6:01, and that way they get home exactly, and they sing Shalom Aleichem before 6:01, and they say Kiddush exactly at 6:01. Why? Because it's a fast day. They want to, you're not supposed to fast on Shabbos. So 6:01 they want to eat. So what do? So you daven mincha early. In this way, you can daven Ma'ariv also early. You daven mincha before Plaga mincha. Plaga mincha today is 4:33. So if you daven mincha early, you could daven. So when can you daven mincha from? So the earliest time is 12:46 today. 12:46 is the earliest mincha, or according to some opinions, it would be 12:49, because the question is if it has to be a full half hour, 30 minutes, or is it a halachic half hour after midday. So 12:46 or 12:49 would be the earliest mincha. Now, that would be called mincha gedola. That's the large mincha. So that means that from that time and onward is called mincha gedola, and that's legally acceptable to daven mincha. There are opinions that say no, mincha ketana is really the appropriate time to daven mincha, because the rest of the year they brought the sacrifice at mincha ketana. So the real proper time is really from 3:26 to daven mincha, not from 12:46 or 12:49. But most people are lenient and they'll daven mincha. For sure you're allowed to. The only question is what's more preferable. But so there's two minchas. There's something called mincha gedola, the large mincha, which means 6.5 hours into the day, and then mincha katana means 9.5 hours into the day. And so these are halachic hours. They're calculated based on like the fact that when was sunrise, when is sunset, and if you calculate 12 hours, you divide that amount of time into 12 hours, 12 portions, it comes out that in today, which is December 22nd, the actual hour, halachic hour, is 53 minutes and 12 seconds. 53 minutes and 12 seconds.
Rabbi, isn't it just for Saturday?
What?
Two minchas?
No. We don't daven twice. It's
that you have two choices to daven mincha. Is that only on Saturday? By us, it's only on Saturday. I don't know.
In your shul, they offer you 2 times to daven, 2 minions.
On Saturday.
but that doesn't mean that that you have to daven, that only on Shabbos you can daven those two options. All year long you could daven those two options.
Oh, I didn't know, because we never
Yeah.
offer it in our shul.
And you could daven at 10 other options. You could daven every hour after 12:40 to, like today is 12:49 would be, let's say, the earliest for mincha
Oh,
here in
starving.
Florida. So you could daven at 12:49. You could daven at 1:49, at 1:30, at 2 o'clock, at 2:30, at 3 o'clock, at 3:30, at 3:15, at 3:10, at 3:12, at 3 this. Well, you could choose whatever time you want. As long as it's 12:49 already, you could daven mincha.
Okay.
It might be some might say that it's more preferable to daven after 3:26, but the common accepted thing is 12:49
During the
is good
week,
enough.
we do it right before marriage. So
Right before Ma'ariv, right. But today, if you want to daven Ma'ariv early, so the smart thing would be daven mincha early, and then you could daven Ma'ariv right at Plaga mincha, which is 4:33. If you daven,
yeah, today we're going
if
to
you
have
daven
it
mincha early, you could daven Ma'ariv at 4:33 here in Florida. And
Today
then you
we're
could
going to have it 45 minutes earlier. Yeah. The
but
mincha.
Anyway, that's that's the option of that. So anyway, here it says Rav holds at the time of mincha. Shmuel says while you're davening mincha during the during the actual prayer of mincha.